Bittul. Page 127. I hope you read everything that came before. I trust you read everything that came before. So now this is a key passage because we're going to discover not just bittul, but the definition of kedusha, holiness. And we're defining kedusha because we want to describe that which is not kedusha. So, in other words, this is where a lot of important things get defined, defining our terms. So let's talk about bittul. I have a book at home called Zoom, and I looked and I searched. That's why I was late. I was searching for that book. And I couldn't find it, so I'm going to pretend that I have the book and show you the picture. See the picture? Maybe you can look it up. It's by an Italian artist, and he starts off with a scene of some sort, and then you zoom out, and you discover that that's not a real scene. It's a postage stamp, and it's posted on a letter. But then you zoom out further, and you discover that this letter is being held in somebody's hand and they're on a billboard. And you zoom out further and you see the whole big scene, and it keeps on going out and out and out, right, at each point. So each point you look and you assume you understand what's going on. But then when you zoom out, you see that's not at all what's going on. And everything has to be reinterpreted now. And when you zoom out further, the thing's not even there anymore. It's so insignificant. And what's the point of a scene on a postage stamp that's being held in somebody's hand on a billboard, which was also part of some movie or whatever, and it goes on and on from there. So at each point of, widening your scope in a new context, what was real now becomes no longer real. What was significant now becomes insignificant, depending on the context. So this is a all in by means of understanding the word bittul as it's used very innovatively by the Alter Rebbe. Until then, every time you come across the word bittul, it means like zero. It's not there. Batul, it's canceled. Say in Hebrew, it's batel. It's canceled. But in halacha, bittul doesn't mean it's canceled. Bittul means it's insignificant. For example, if you have a big vat of chicken soup, and oh my gosh, a little drop of milk fell in the chicken soup. Well, if the vat is this big and the drop was that small, it's not going to change the taste. It's totally absorbed within the chicken soup. Not going to change. It is so insignificant, you say it's a batel. It's like it's not there. As long as it's 1 part in 60th, it's like it's not there. That's bittul. And you can have in all sorts of other situations. You can say another example is if I would take a candle in a dark room. This is a very important candle. The whole room is lit up because of this candle. If I take the candle into a room where there's light already, well, maybe you could still see the flame, maybe. In a bright room, you won't see the flame. If I take it outside, if it keeps burning, there's no flame there. You won't see a thing. And maybe you've gotten yourself burnt sometimes when you have a match or something burning outdoors. You can't see it. You can't see there's a flame there. The light of the flame is lost. It's batel. So the Alter Rebbe, being a halachist, he's a rav. He wrote his Shulchan Aruch Harav. He takes the same word and applies it in a spiritual sense. When you can have bittul, some people are capable of having bittul, other people are incapable of bittul. Some have a little bit of bittul, some have more bittul. For example, you have a guy that thinks he knows math. He's pretty good at math. He'll tell you how good he is at math. What happens when he's in a room with brilliant mathematicians and they're talking? Well, if he has any sense of bittul, he'll keep his mouth shut. In this situation, he knows nothing. He knows nothing. But if he doesn't have that sense of bittul, he keep on talking and make a fool of himself. At what degree of bittul do you have? So the same thing, you meet somebody who is way beyond you in intellect, maybe, or just as a person, so on. You have a sense of bittul towards this person. I feel like nobody in front of him. Does that mean that I am a nobody? I'm not a nobody, but before this person, I'm a nobody. You have that sense. It's probably a very vital sense to have. It is a very vital sense. Nothing can exist without bittul. If you're a critter living in some environment, you have to have some sense of there's something bigger than me here. You have to be able to give in, surrender at certain points. Now it's time to flee and not to fight. You have to have that. Everything receives life, is able to survive because it has some bittul. If you don't have any bittul, you're rigid. I just am. You're not going to live very long. So you need bittul. Okay.
How does that relate to the use of bittul Torah?
Yeah, that's the old use of bittul. Bittul Torah means not doing it. I'm not learning. Canceled.
Right.
That's the other sense of bittul.
Okay.
This sense of bittul is contextual. Contextual. Within one context, you're something. Within another context, you are nothing. I'm sure you can think of more examples of that. It's all about context. Where are you right now? Here, you can, one place you can talk, another place, you know how to keep your mouth shut, okay? Have a little bittul. So if you're standing in front of a great and awesome king, you have to know who you're standing in front of. That would be a sense of bittul.
So like awareness?
Well, you can be aware and not have the bittul. Bittul means you're ready to say, in this situation, I am nothing. Some people can't do that. They can't let go of their sense of somethingness. They can't.
Like reading the room. Reading the room?
Reading the room, it's more like being able to put yourself to the side over here. In some situations, listen, you're in the vicinity, sitting next to somebody who's in emotional distress. And you want to tell them this, you want to tell them that. No. This person's in emotional distress. Keep your mouth closed and just let the person and have some bittul. You don't have to take up the whole space.
Rabbi, is it like deference to defer to something higher?
Deference has much to do with it. Yeah, deference would be that. But deference would be you just know the protocol. This is you have a sense of bittul.
Right.
Like there was a.
No, I was just trying to grasp a. I know the concept. I just was trying to perhaps get a hold of an English word that would explain it.
That's that we always get messed up with that. Sometimes there isn't one.
Yeah.
So
Insignificance,
but you're not always in this situation.
Right.
You're insignificant. In situational insignificance. Yeah. Okay. There was a Rav who complained to the Tzemach Tzedek. He says they step all over me in the Beis Medrash, where everybody's learning. In other words, every time he comes up with an opinion, an idea, everybody totally disregards his opinion, argues with him, beats him down, and what's your opinion? He says always they step all over me. So Tzemach Tzedek said, who told you to spread yourself over the entire base of Medrash, that where anybody steps, they're going to be stepping on you. Make yourself a little small. You don't have to have an opinion on everything. Now, he was reading the room. He's knowing what's actually going on is that anybody has something to say, he has an opinion about it. So they're disregarding his opinion. He has an opinion on everything. You don't have to have an opinion on everything. Have some bittul.
Is it partly like letting go of your ego?
Letting go of your ego, yeah. Yeah, you're able
I was going
Rabbi.
to say that. Yeah.
like I don't have to be here. I don't have to take up space. It's not about me. It's not. Some people can't do it. Maybe because they feel so vulnerable. They feel the whole world is against them. They feel very weak. So they don't have any inner strength. And so they're afraid that if they make themselves into nothing, they're going to disappear and be gone. So it takes some confidence to be a nobody.
Rabbi,
Yeah, it's me.
uh,
I think
isn't it sort?
right? Yeah,
Yeah, that's you.
Yeah.
Isn't it sort of like a state in which you get out of the way of God's holiness?
Getting out of the way. That's a good term. Getting out of the way. You're able to get out of the way. Some people cannot get out of the way. They can't even get out of their own way, never mind other people's way. So they're always getting in everybody else's way and in their way as well, and especially in God's way. They don't want to get in his way. So you say, this is what I have to do. This is what I have to do. That's it. I don't want to do it. That's inconvenient. This is what needs to get done. Somebody has to do it, so I do it. Okay, so let's get into this here. The point of understanding bittul is that's where there's holiness. Where there's bittul, there's holiness. Bittul is like the window that allows holiness into the room. You're making yourself, that may be another good word for it, you're making yourself transparent. Getting out of the way. And the word I like to use is when it's personal bittul of a person, he's able to transcend his self. Self-transcendence. It's not about me. Like those are beautiful words. It's not about me. Like somebody's really upset and having a bad day and screaming at it. It's not about me. They're having a bad day. Not about me. Some people, everything is about me.
Can you think of bittul as removing your klipa?
Removing your
klipa?
Your klipa, yeah. Well, we're going to find klipa is that which stands in the way.
Right.
When there's no bittul, because there's klipa there. Everything really should have bittul. Okay, a window is what allows kedusha in, like a window allows sunlight in. So sunlight is a good example of bittul. Sunlight comes into the room. Right? Let's compare it to, let's say, a raccoon walks into the room. Yes, a raccoon, what are you doing here? I'm looking for food. I'm here because I want to be here. I'm looking for food. Okay, ask the sunlight. What are you doing in the room? Why did you come in the room? What's the sunlight going to say?
Because the room is there.
It's not me. The sun is shining. What are you asking me? I'm not even here. What do you mean you're not here? No, it's not me. The sun is shining in the room. There is no me. That's sunlight, okay? So there can be a malach. An angel is the same way. The word malach, I don't know where the word angel comes from, but malach means also a messenger, a proxy, an agent. That's all a malach is. So you ask the malach, what are you doing here? It's not me. Hashem is here. But he sent you. He doesn't have that sense. The higher malachim. There's a lower malachim that do have a sense of me. But the higher malachim, even sometimes you see in Torah, the malach saying, I, meaning God. Because they're speaking in the name of Hashem. It's a malach. It's a voice piece for Hashem. So the Malach has that kind of bittul. So holiness, the side of holiness, is nothing other than God's holiness residing and freely extending somewhere, like light. In other words, holiness really should be the default, how things really should be. Everything should be that. That's a very novel idea. We usually understand holiness as something you introduce into somewhere that it's like a foreign thing coming in here. No. Holiness is how things are supposed to be. If everything recognizes what it really is, where it's coming from, it would feel holy. It would be holy. It's nothing other than God's holiness residing and freely extending. There's nothing blocking it, nothing getting in the way. And God only resides upon that which has bittul to him, not obstructing his presence by asserting its own existence. Okay? So that's why bittul means things are the way they really are. Nothing's obstructing. So then you have kedusha, holiness. Now, two types of bittul. This could be an actual bittul, as with the malachim, the angels, the higher angels, malachim elyonim. Or it could be a latent bittul, as with every Jew here below in this world. For every Jew is innately capable of the ultimate bittul. When the connection to God is put to the test, a Jew will willfully surrender their very life for God's holiness. So that's the test of a Jew's bittul. So all day long, the Jew is going around looking for what tastes good, what do I want to do? He's bothering me, I want that, I want this. So those are all selfish. It all comes from klippa. But let's say this Jew was put to the test and told, deny that you were a Jew, and deny that there's a God, deny you have any connection to God, something like that. He says, no, I can't do that. Well, why? I can't. And even if he's put to the test of the sword, the bullet, whatever it is, the Jew says, well, I can't. Not that I don't want to. I want to live, but I can't do that. So it might not work in every situation. It hasn't worked in every situation. Jew may be too educated and think his way out of this and decide, well, but a simple Jews in many situations have said, no, I can't do that. And they've given their lives. There weren't people who were great rabbis or heroes or men of conviction and so on. They're simple people who did this. Some of them were not exactly the biggest tzaddikim either, but put to such a test, they said, I can't do that. Just can't. So that's bittul. At that point, I don't feel I am my own person. There's something higher than me. And it's inescapable. I can't get out of it. So that's innately latent within a Jew. And therefore, because of that, there's always kedusha there for a Jew. A Jew is holy. And gives example. That's why, as the rabbis of the Talmud say, wherever even one Jew sits down and occupies himself with Torah, the Shekhinah resides there. In other words, there's holiness. Jews are occupied in Torah. The rest of the time is not so holy. Why? Because it's occupied, and I want this, I need this, okay. So not leaving any room for the Shekhinah. But as soon as the Jew is sitting down and doing what a Jew naturally does, occupied in Torah, could be doing a mitzvah, could be learning, could be done, the Shekhinah is there. And they say the Shekhinah resides upon any assembly of 10 Jews, regardless of circumstance. They could be sitting and playing a bridge, or I don't know if poker, because they might be doing some sins over there. But I say bridge, okay, they're playing a game of cards, they're playing volleyball together, or whatever, but they're 10 Jews together. The Shekhinah's there. There is kedusha. Why do you need 10? Right? One Jew, for one Jew, he has to be occupied in Torah. But if you're not occupied, but if you have 10 Jews, they don't have to be occupied in Torah, and the Shekhinah is there. There's holiness there. Why? What does it help the Shekhinah that there's 10?
It's a minion.
Because well, so what's the big deal of a minion? Yeah, you want to know the answer? I don't know. Okay, no, I saw a couple of answers. I don't understand any of them though. So one answer I put down here, you look, 10 Jews, 9 plus 1 is much more than 10. That's because the whole often contains meaning far beyond the sum of its parts. More than that, each part shines much brighter when it's a part of a whole. For example, within the context of a word, right, they have a word, say, I don't know, barbecue, whatever. Individual letters now shine with meanings. Like, let's say you have a D and an A and a D. A D, what's a D? It's just a D. An A is just an A. D, we had that already. Put the three together, it says dad. Oh, what's that D? It's the first letter of the word dad. What's the A? That's the A of dad. Right? Now the words, not only the letters form together make something of meaning, but each of the letters themselves gains real value. It's not just a symbol. It's part of a meaning. Similarly, when atoms bond together as a molecule, they gain properties they don't exhibit alone. That's called synergy. You have properties that atoms gain when they bond. They have more strength to power. Like the sum of the whole is great. It's called Gestalt. It's Gestalt philosophy. The whole is something totally different than the parts. But not only that, the parts become something different when they're part of this whole. So too with an assembly of 10 divine souls, each soul now shines with greater strength, a bittul empowered by a bond with 9 other shining lights, so that here the Shekhinah resides, right? So they become much greater. It's not just a Jew, it's a Jew who's part of this community.
Male.
What? What did I do wrong? What?
She said it's male.
No, there can be, no, there's men you need in order to have a Davish Kedusha, like Kaddish and so on. But for the Shekhinah to be there, it's 10 Jews. That's different. For your Jewish soul to shine, you need to be among other Jews, especially 10 plus Jews, whether prepared Torah and learning mitzvahs and goodies. Okay, you want 10 there. So, but why 10? Okay, there's an explanation, but as soon as you say the explanation, there's so many questions covered the explanation. So when you have 10, you have all 10 sefirot, right? One of them is Chacham. So you have a whole, an entire world. That's why 10 makes a community. We learned that from, where we learned the 10, that 10 make a minion, 10 make a community. Where did we learn it from?
Korah? No.
Close. Parsha right before, Shalach. God says to Moses, Ad matai le'eda hara'a hazot. How much more can I put up with this evil community? Who's the evil community? The spies. There were how many spies? 12. But Caleb and Yeshua were not part of the bad guys, so that leaves 10. So 10 Jews who started off being very good and now turned around and are totally rebelling and destroying the entire Jewish community, which means they became very bad. And when you're very good and become very bad, that makes it much, much, much worse, right? So they're going straight to hell. That's it, right? And we say, that's the definition of community. 10 Jews ready to go to hell. Okay. But why do we have to bring an example from 10 wicked Jews? Why can't we bring an example from 10 okay Jews? Simple answer. If I brought you an example, if the Torah would say, these 10 Jews were nice people, make a community, you would therefore think, when do you have a community? When do you have a minyan? When do you have Kedusha there? When there's 10 good Jews. But if one of them is bad, oh, no, one of them is bad. We'd be constantly throwing people out of the minyan. You're bad, out. But we don't have a minyan. Yeah, we didn't have a minyan with him because he's bad. Okay. So it turns out you're going to have 10 most wicked Jews there are on the planet Earth. And Kedusha is there. You know, the Rebbe's father, when he was in Kostroma, Kostroma was a town where the Russians sent criminals. Stinking place and at the time in Azerbaijan. So people would come there, travel far distances to come to see him for all sorts of needs. And a couple came to him. They want to get married. So he wants to do the wedding right. He wants to have 10 Jews there. Can't get up 10 Jews in the middle of the night. But there's the guy that the government appointed to watch him, the informer, who's watching over him. He's an informant, right? He's the 10th Jew. Got him up in the middle of the night, slept him. The guy couldn't believe it. He's brought in there. He was the 10th. So, yeah.
Why is it 10 and not 12 though?
It's because there's 10 Sefirot.
It just seems like with the 12 tribes that.
But nobody's asking the question that the question that is the reason we didn't put this answer in, because we figured everybody would ask the obvious question. I had 10 Jews here, right? One is going to be Chochmah, one's going to be Bina, one's going to be, okay, until I have all the 10 Sefirot, right? Now, let's say I take there's a minyan next door, right? So when I start switching, right? Do I have to spitch the Bina guy for the Bina guy and the Chochmah guy for the Chochmah guy? What do I do now? What if I get this guy comes walks in the minyan and says, well, we have a minyan with you. No, I can't because he's Chochmah. So what's the problem? Well, in the last minyan I was Chochmah. What's going to be? So it has to be in each time, place. Like you could become anything. How does that work? It gets really complicated, but somehow it works. Somehow, like a relative in this situation, the malachim are all working everything out. That in this situation, you're this, in this situation, you're that. Somehow it always works. You have 10 Sefirot. But even if they're the most wicked, you have 10. Actually, the other term for a community, all these different terms in Hebrew for community, Edah, Kahal, Tzibur. Tzibur is actually a pile, but we call it community a Tzibur. But Tzibur, they say, is Rashi Tevot. The letters stand Tzadikim, Beinonim, Rishaim. Tzadikim, Beinonim, middle people, and Rishaim, wicked people. That makes a Tzibur. And the Chachamim say that any time that Tzibur comes together to pray, if they don't have Poshei Yisrael, some wicked Jews there amongst wisdom, they're not a real Tzibur. That's why the beginning of Rosh Hashanah, we have before Kol Nidre, we take out the 3 Sifrei Torah, and we are Batir Lehitpalel Ima Avranim. Anybody who's been excommunicated for whatever reason, you're not allowed to be here, not allowed to be in a shul, we're not allowed to daven with you. For Yom Kippur, we're mater, and these people come in. For example, people don't know this, but if a Jew hits another Jew, he's instantaneously in cherem. He can't be included in a minyan until he comes to Bet Din and asks what he's supposed to do. And they can tell him what he's supposed to do. So now comes Yom Kippur, he walks into the shul, what do you do? So immediately in Yom Kippur, we're matter that he can hit Palelim Avranim.
So doesn't that contradict?
What?
Doesn't that contradict the idea of a minyan being ashamed as well as tzaddikim?
Yeah. But that's halacha. We don't say he's wicked, therefore he's out. It can be another guy who's an adulterer, and another guy who knows what. but there happens to be a cherem hakadmonim. At some point, the rabbis all got together and decreed any time a Jew hits another Jew, he's instantly called a cherem hakadmonim. So be careful.
What?
Cherem hakadmonim, the excommunication of the previous generations.
Nonsense.
There are other situations. For example, if somebody refuses to give his wife a get, the rabbis can excommunicate him. And now he's not allowed to daven in your minyan. It tends to not work nowadays outside of Israel. But officially. But otherwise, aside from that, it's 10 Jews, that's it. So they're making it so even though they're not occupied in Torah, they're playing whatever. Blackjack, I don't know, something. So the Shekhinah is there. Why? Why is the Shekhinah there and 10 other people is not there? Because a Jew has the capacity, latent, more than capacity, it's latent there. In such a situation, he will have bittul. He just didn't bring it out yet, but he does. So it's bittul that allows for holiness. Now, what's the bittul of the angels we talked about before? I think the bittul of the Jew, though, is not that he will give his life up for God, but more than that, it's that he's incapable of separating himself from God. He's incapable of denying his connection to God. Even when he denies it, he inherently is not denying it. And so I told this story about the kid who comes home singing Christmas carols. And I said, they sent him the Jewish atheist family. They come to a fancy neighborhood. They have to send a kid to the best school. The best school happens to be a Roman Catholic school. Send him to a Catholic school. And it comes December, he's coming home singing Christmas carols. And the parents just can't take this. The Christmas kids just can't take that. They're trying to stay calm, holding themselves, holding the best. We're tolerant, tolerant. It's another religion. They have their religion. I don't believe in religion, but it's the best school. He's getting good. Finally, the father can't take it anymore. He says, listen, kid, don't stop singing those carols. There's only one God and we don't believe in him. So, okay, that's called Jewish atheism. They say that a non-Jewish atheist, he's an atheist, and think about it for a long time. And you ask him, he's an atheist. Okay, a Jewish atheist has to remind himself every morning that he is an atheist. I told the other story, the old man who boasts to the rabbi that every year on Passover, he has a wonderful Passover Seder. Before Passover, he goes out and he buys French bread, and garlic bread, pumpernickel bread, and sourdough bread, all sorts of breads, and he puts them all on the table. So the rabbi says, oh, it's a wonderful Seder. I must have a lot of people there. He says, no, it's me and my wife. So, and why are you doing this whole thing? To show that there is no God. So if there's nobody there except you and your wife, who is it that you're showing that there's no God? He says, zum Gott! To God, he has to show that there's no God. Who was it? It was Jean-Paul Sartre who said, I know the Jewish atheist, I think he said agnostic, is not really agnostic. He's anti-clerical, but he's not an agnostic. Okay, so this describing bittul and kedusha. So now we know what holiness is. It's going to become very, very important throughout. So now it's all in order to describe what is sitra achra. But then there are all those, we're on page 130. But then there are all those beings that lack bittul to him. They assert themselves instead as entities of their own, disconnected from their creator. Although everything that exists receives its energy from God's holiness, these beings don't receive it directly from the inner track of that holiness, from its raw core essence and in all its glory. Instead, they receive energy from an outer track. That is the track by which this divine light and energy becomes greatly diminished. It descends from one level to the next through myriads of levels in the great chain of worlds, steadily degrading via cause and effect in multiple condensations of energy. Another term for this is bureaucracy. Eventually, the signal of light and life energy becomes so diminished through multiple phases of reduction that it is capable of squeezing itself within this disconnected being, not genuinely residing there, but rather in a kind of exile, stifled and muted. So everything, in other words, really has some divine energy inside it. Nothing can exist without divine energy. But there's two ways for that divine energy to get there. If it comes direct from its source, then it's there comfortably. It's residing there. It's at home there. But if you're not, when does that happen? When you let it in, you open the windows. But if you don't open any windows, you don't want to let it in because you have no bittul. So then it has to come to the back door. So the back door has to go through the garden. The garden has to go underneath the fence. Get underneath the fence, it has to come through the sewers and the whole, everything along the way. And then it's very uncomfortable. So that's what the Sitra Achra is. Sitra Achra is very hostile to its host. Like Sitra Achra is, imagine that you go from here and you go back to your home, you knock, the door's locked, you try your key, the key doesn't work, you pound on the door, nobody's answering, so you go around to the back door and you walk in through the back door and they look and you say, what are you doing here? Well, it's my home. Zelda, there's somebody here at the door thinks it's his home. She's like, tell him to sit there and wait until we have time to talk to him. But it's my home. So that's God coming into somebody who's klippa, doesn't have kedusha. I'm not a guest. Shush, just be quiet. We have guests over. But okay, so it's called being there in exile. Okay, and the Jew could be in exile because the Jew is not occupied in Torah. And the Jew might be doing all sorts of other things. So God is there in exile. There's no neshama can be there in exile. But at least at the time that the Jew is doing mitzvahs, there with 9 other Jews, it's not in exile, it's residing.
Can you elevate the Sitra Achra? Or is it like one of those things you can't elevate? Like it's a.
We're going to get to. There's two kinds. Some are elevatable, and some are stuck. So I'll get to that. That's in chapter 7. But here we're talking about what is the state. What is the state?
So it's not like pure evil. It's just blocking.
Well, if you tell me it's not my house, so that's pretty bad, right?
Yeah.
Even if you welcome me in as a guest, or you treat me as a guest, but it's my house, right? So it's still exile. The difference is, am I capable of convincing you that this is really my house, and will you then let me go to sleep in my bedroom?
So we're like squatters in God's.
Yeah. So there's squatters who will be amenable, we'll let you stay here, but you have to be, but you're squatters. This is not your house, okay? Then we're okay with you. But there are other squatters who just won't let you in. That's it. This is not your house, right? We took over the city. We elected a mayor. And it's not yours anymore. If you were somebody who lives in Britain at this time, you would get that sense. Well, your city's been taken over and you're told it's not yours anymore. Exile in your own city. Okay, so that's how it comes down through this long chain until it finally gets there. So there's this medrash that really describes it, where the king decides that he wants to have a big convention in your beach town, right? So you get calls from the king's office. There's no hotel in your beach town, so we need places for everybody to stay. We got a minister of transportation, minister of commerce, minister of transportation, and we got the king, and all the entourage, and each place, somebody else. So one guy says, I'll take the minister of commerce. That's a good idea because I have business here. I want to bring some business. Somebody else says, I'm going to take the minister of transportation, convince him to build a highway to our beach town. Somebody else says, I want the minister. Which other one did I say? Commerce. What? Who did I say? Oh, it's all in here. What do you know? So in the interior. Okay. So nobody wants the king. Why does nobody want the king? Well, nobody wants the king. Why? It takes says there's one bright person says, I'm going to take the king. Because everywhere else portfolios could change, and that day he's become minister of commerce. Tomorrow he might be minister of something else. Might be gone, the king. Okay, take the king. Why? What's so brilliant about taking the king? Isn't it obvious? It's just a simple thing. He's in charge of everybody. Take the king. What's the problem? Imagine you have to put yourself in the situation. You've got a nice home right on the shore in a beach town, right? Whatever home it is, no matter what. What's it like to have the king in your home?
It's a downgrade.
What?
It's a downgrade from the palace.
What happens to your home? Is it your home anymore?
Oh, no.
You got all the press out in your front. You got the security going through your home, checking through everything. You're going to have him sleep in a guest room. There goes your bedroom.
Right.
Where are you going to sit at the table? Will they let you sit at the table? Right? It's not your home anymore. That's the difference. The minister of commerce, whatever minister, it's your home. The king, it's not your home anymore. So that's the person with bittul. So it's not my home, it's the king's. I don't mind. I have the king. So I think that's a beautiful example of what bittul it really is. It's the king. It's let him have my home. Who am I? Okay. Whereas Sitra, I can't have the king. It's my home. Too bad. So it's this sense that if I totally give in to Hashem and what he wants, I'm not my boss anymore. He is. Yeah, so a Jew says, okay, lovely. That's what a Jew is supposed to say, at least. That's what Tzaddik says.
Tzaddik would take the king.
Yeah.
Got it.
Somebody else will say, hold on, I got to have my space over here. This is my home.
Right.
At least leave me some space. Okay, so now with this, is all into describing. Where's it coming from? Where did we go to? Okay, so we say this exile, we're the state of exile, but it enters at page 130. We're missing a page. No, 132, 133, right? Page 133. It enters into the subliminal state. This energy, this divine energy, enters into the subliminal state, so that it can enliven this thing, and so that it can stay in its continuous regeneration out of the void. For otherwise, this thing would revert to the absolute null state that preceded its creation. So the thing is constantly not just getting its life, its very existence from this exiled non-guest. Like he's running the whole show. It's being treated as not even a guest. You're in exile over here. Exile. What exile means? You can be in exile in your own land. You're not at home. That's all exile means. You can be in your own house, feeling I'm here in exile, a stranger in your own home, because you don't feel that you have no control, any control over it. Probably one of the biggest exiles is when you're, say, an elderly person in a hospital or in a care facility and so on. I remember watching this once. I went for an MRI scan, and they bring in an elderly lady, and she's screaming as she's coming in the room, "I don't want an MRI scan. I don't." And the nurse is saying, "I'm sorry, the doctor says you have to have an MRI, but I don't want an MRI scan. I'm not. We have the doctor says you have to have it." She has no control. I mean, maybe they're right. She has to have it, but she has no control over her own life. They're just taking her there to whatever. So no matter where she is, even if she were at home, you don't have any control over the situation. You're in exile. So God is in exile. He's giving you life. He's sustaining you, your very existence. But because he gives you free choice, and you're making choices with your free choice that he doesn't want, but he's forced to still, that's the deal. I give you free choice. That's your decision. I have to keep sustaining you at every moment. It's bizarre. It's totally bizarre. How does it work? But that's the situation. So this strangling and entrapment of life energy explains why this world and all it contains is called the world of Klippus and Sitra Achra. Sitra Achra, the other side. So the other side is that side which is not Kedusha, because it doesn't have Bittul. God is there in exile, and this world is a world of Klippot and Sitra Achra. And that explains why, and this is a quote from Eitz Chaim, everything in this world is full of hardship and suffering, and the wicked have the upper hand. That is the description of our world. Is there anybody who can challenge that? Is it not true? People say, Rabbi Freeman, you're such a pessimist. Everything in this world is full of hardship and suffering. The wicked have the upper hand. Such a pessimist. No, it's not pessimism. On the contrary, if you come into the world thinking the world is made of candy bars, the streets are paved with chocolate and everything, and that everybody is really truly good inside, you're going to be very, very disappointed and very cynical. But if you come into the world knowing that this place is full of hardship and suffering, and the wicked have the upper hand, anytime you find a little shiny jewel, you'll be very, very happy. But you have to know where you are. I have one of the Kabbalah tunes about mining for gold, right? So some people go up to the Bet Din Shalamayla, the heavenly court, and they, when they're asked questions about their life, they'll ask me about my life. Let me tell you about what's going on down there. This, and this, and this, and all the schmutz, right? Because that's what they did their whole life. They tell about this. They report on all the schmutz. What does Beis Din say? We know it's full of schmutz. We know it's mud. It's a gold mine. Where is the gold? You were supposed to bring back gold with you. No, all you brought back was the schmutz. So you have to know. We have to know what this world is. It's a world where God is in exile. And so therefore, because he's in exile, and the life comes in, like has to squeeze itself in, So it's full of hardship and suffering. And the wicked usually win. As you see.
What is the Etz Chaim?
Etz Chaim, so it's a book.
Yeah.
The Rabbi Chaim Vital was the protege of Rabbi Yitzchak the Arizal, and he wrote his major book is the Etz Chaim, the Tree of Life, and or another one, the Pri Etz Chaim. Those are his major works of Chaim Vital. So it's quoted very often in Tanya. Okay, so next week, God willing, we get to the two different types of klippah, the lower klippahs, we get to the higher klippahs. But I do recommend reading everything that I skipped out over here. And so take it home with you. And same time, same place next week. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you.